This week on the podcast for new all-age comic books for the week of May 16, 2018, one of the Life comics comes to an end. Your favorite lasagna-eating cat has a new special, The Mighty Moe, Usagi, Yojimbo, a $1 comic book kids 8 and up are going to love, and much more.
Hey, and welcome to Daddy Mojo. It's the podcast where we'll talk about parenting, all-age comic books, toys, and more. Now, here's your host, Trey Burley.
Thank you for joining us this week. This is Trey with Daddy Mojo. Hope you're having a great day. We are going to talk some all-age comic books, and you may know the drill, but if you don't, every Wednesday is New Comic Book Day. It's when all of the comic book stores in all of the country, all of the United States of America, and probably elsewhere, they receive their new comic books, and from that shipment, there are lots that are great for all age audiences. They really are. Sometimes it takes some navigation, and you may have to ask the staff at the store, but there are lots that kids as young as 6 can read. Not kidding. And we've got a couple of those that we're going to talk about today. First off, though, let's start it with this one. This is a comic book reprinted from 1991 that's going to be great for kids 8 or 9 and up. And it's got a superhero team that they may not know enough about because the Avengers stole all their thunder, despite being from the same publishing house. It's X-Men. This reprints X-Men numbered issue 25 from 1991. Let's go old school. And it only costs $1. That's why I put this out there. It's from Marvel Comics, and it's from their True Believers imprint, for lack of a better term, where Marvel Comics reprints some of the classic issues, and they discount the price to only $1 to say, look at this cool stuff. We've been doing this for about 26 years. Check it out. And this is a beautiful comic book. It really is. I remember buying this one full price back in the day. It has it's got Magneto with that hologram, that holographic kind of scratchy thing on the front, lenticular surface. Back before Marvel did it a lot more than DC totally rode that goat into the sunset. Beautiful comic book, though. The violence is going to be toned down relative to today's comic books, and kids 8 or 9 and up, if you're looking for a superhero joint that's a little old school and very affordable, check this out because it is only $1. Bad news if you like it, it's only $1, and there's one of them. However, there are lots of others that have been released in the same imprint, True Believers, that are worth checking out. Hey, while we're on superheroes, this one is going to skew older, and it's new, and it collects a recent storyline that happened in The Incredible Hulk. Love The Incredible Hulk. As an action superhero title, this is really dependable. It collects Incredible Hulk recent storylines from 709 to 713, and it has Hulk returning to planet Hulk. This story is really beautiful. It's got some violence that may be too much for younger kids. So again, I'll say maybe 9 and 10 or up. However, if I were a 9-year-old kid, man, I'd go mental over this. The art is beautiful. The language is not going to be bad. However, some of the violence, some of the action may be a little too much for some parents. Who may not want their kids to see it. But it's beautiful, so if your kid wants to buy it, go want to buy it. It's a graphic novel that does collect a handful of comics, so it's more than the average issue. It is $15.99 retail. If you look around, though, you can save 20% and buy it for just under $13. It's The Incredible Hulk, Return to Planet Hulk, and it's beautiful. Taking their tongue firmly in cheek, Bongo Comics has this one. And Bongo Comics is the same house that does Simpsons comics. One of the best all-age comic books out there. You can pick up anytime, any issue. It's great. And the same goes for their little one-shot deals. Like some of the ancillary characters in The Simpsons receive their own one-shot issues where this comic book is all about them. And this comic book is all about Moe Sislak, the bartender at Moe's Tavern. Hilarious stuff. It's got the same art that you've grown to love in the comic books and on the television series. Really is fabulous. In any of these one-offs, they did a Jimbo one-shot last year that was great. Jimbo the Bully from The Simpsons. How could that be entertaining? But it was. So I encourage you to check that out if you're into The Simpsons, or if you can't watch The Simpsons because your parents won't let you because it's got too much attitude and sass, check out this comic book and your parents will approve. Bonus points is that if you go to your local comic book store, they probably still have some of the Bongo Comics that they had for Free Comic Book Day. I know Free Comic Book Day was a couple weeks ago, but they probably still have some laying around because they've got boxes and boxes of stuff. Look for it and you can prove to your parents that it is cool for kids. I promise. Side note, we are on Twitter. It's @DaddyMojo. And if you would be so kind as to rate this podcast, that'd be great. Just a little quick rating on iTunes or Stitcher or Podomatic or whatever service brought you here. That'd be super. Thank you very much. I love lasagna. But the problem with lasagna is you make a lot. I mean, you really, it's a pan. And about halfway through the pan, you're kind of sick of lasagna until 4 months later when you make it again. Except for Garfield. Garfield always loves lasagna. And Odie is just clueless and happy. This is a classic property. Who would have thought it would have had legs this long to where in 2018 we're still talking about Garfield? New stories in comic book form coming out this week. It's a graphic novel. It's called Garfield 2018 Vacation Time Blues. And graphic novel is probably incorrect. It's a very large comic book. It's much thicker than your average comic book, and its price reflects that for a retail of only of under $8. But it's thicker, and it's packed with Garfield goodness, and it's got a couple storylines. John and Liz. Liz is the girlfriend. It's been so long since I've read Garfield, I had forgotten that he had a girlfriend. But they're in trouble. Also, there's a lasagna monster in the campgrounds. It's probably Garfield on a full moon. Hilarious stuff. And who's going to like this? Wow, aged 6 and up. You will love Garfield if you haven't read Garfield. This could be a little expensive for your entry point. However, if you're looking for a fun kind of, hey, we're going 6 hours in the car and I need something for you kids to be quiet while we ride for an hour, this will get you 1/6 of the way. It will. Garfield 2018 Vacation Time Blues. Like this stuff. It's from Boom Studios. And I wrote about this in the post over at daddymojo.net. If you're new to comics, looking for kid comics or all-age comic books, and you're an old-school parent, you're thinking, okay, DC, Marvel, DC, Marvel, DC, Marvel, DC, Marvel, DC. You're thinking only 2 publishers, and those 2 publishers, you're going to have a long road, because those 2 publishers do not produce very many all-age comic books. Boom Studios does a lot. Dynamite does a couple, but they may be publishers that you're not familiar with, but they're going to produce the majority of comic books that will appeal and be appropriate to children. The ages will vary, like this one. This is from Boom Studios, and it's one of the Life comic books that we talk about. It's called Fence, and it's about a group of fencers in a high school. See, so it's not the stuff that's going to appeal to everybody, but if you're a tween reader, or maybe a teen reader who's looking for something original and left of center, and your high school has a fencing team, it's custom made for you. It's issue number 6 of Fence. It's out this week, and it's a pretty pleasant little miniseries that will surprise you. It's like Lumberjanes without the absurdity, and there are boys in this one. So in some ways, it's not like Lumberjanes at all. There we are. This, however, this is its final issue for this one, the Archies. The Archies, it was a 7-issue miniseries. I'm not sure if it was intended that way or if they just called the game early, but this is the final issue, and it's this miniseries limited issue run comic book, whatever you want to call it. It concentrated on the band, the Archies. So it wasn't Archie's teen crisis or Betty Veronica who's going to get the date, any of that nonsense. This was all about the band and how the band works together to get stuff done and make great music. How do they do it? And this final issue ties everything up to where they're trying to open up for Josie and the Pussycats. Yes, you see the brand feeding the brand. It's that yin-yang symbol where one eats the other. In this case, Jody and the Pussycats. They are still ongoing. The Archies, in this case, this particular comic book has its swan song, but there are still, I think, 3 or 4 different Archie titles or featuring characters of that to fit the need over there. The Archies, though, say goodbye with issue number 7. Dodge City, again, kind of like Fence, a real niche comic book about dodgeball. This is not Will Ferrell's Dodgeball where it's silly and over the top. It's silly, but it's not crazy silly over the top. And you kind of have to look at it to figure it out and say, well, maybe we like it. This is, again, a light comic book because it's not so absurd where you're going to laugh. You'll laugh at parts of it, most certainly. Nor is it so serious you're going to say this is like some melodrama that is a bad movie. This is just good, silly fun that is like Lumberjanes, except not as supernatural. That's it. And has Dodgeball. Dodgeball issue number 3. This is a mini-series, again, from Boom Studios. Do you sense a theme here? If you have a tween reader, again, who's a tween? 10-year-olds would be okay with this. Maybe a little young 11-year-olds, you'll be fine. 12, you'll be fine. 13 and up, boom, it's your sweet spot. Get to be 16, maybe you'll like it. Maybe not. Dodge City. It's not a Western. Kind of sounds like it. But it's not. It's out this week from Boom Studios. Do your kids like Steven Universe? The story behind this cartoon is really fabulous. And as a mini-series, it kind of had miniseries 1, miniseries 2, and suddenly they were like, you know what, this is so popular and it's so well received. Each time we put out a special one-shot or a miniseries, this is continuing from the miniseries. They said, you know what, we're not even going to call it a miniseries anymore. We're just going to call it ongoing. It happens every month. It does. In this particular issue, 16, Steven and Amethyst sneak out to go to a concert, but they soon find trouble. If you've seen the show, you kind of know the gentle, silly foibles that they encounter, as well as kind of the supernatural and the fun and the magic. Who is this going to appeal to? Anybody that likes Steven Universe, ages 12 and up. And I say 12 just because there's nothing really bad about it. It's just that it's very quirky. It's kind of like regular show quirky, except it may not have the manic action that regular show has, or the fans of regular show would expect from it. This is a bit more ethereal, and it's a little more thought out. So that's why I'm skewing it just a bit older. 12 and up for Steven Universe ongoing. Goosebumps. I have long wondered why Goosebumps isn't a steady ongoing property. There was a miniseries out in the fall of 2017, a 3-issue miniseries, and I presume that's what they're doing here. This is called Goosebumps, Download and Die. You say from yourself the title? That's not really family friendly. I don't want my 6-year-old reading it. And you're correct. This isn't really going to be for 6-year-olds. However, in an 8 or 9-year-old, they will get the absurdity in this. And it's not absurd over the top. I'll say absurd in that there's a monster in your cell phone and it's going to come out and get you. 9-year-olds know that's not going to happen. That's what this is about. And it's from IDW. IDW Publishing is, again, one of those houses. It's not one of the big two relative to you old school moms and dads who may be thinking, I'm looking for those two houses. IDW Publishing, they do a lot of kid stuff. And this is one of those that's going to suit those who like science fiction with the brand name value of Goosebumps. Download and Die, issue 3. Now, this comic book, it really is one of our favorites. It's going to be a little more difficult to find. There won't be as many of them out there, but it's great. It's Usagi Yojimbo, The Hidden, and it's from Stan Sakai. In our pantheon of all-age comic books, it is on the same level as Simpsons Comics, SpongeBob, and Scooby-Doo. Where if I'm speaking to somebody on the street, hey, what's a good all-age comic book? I'll say, check this out. Here's my elevator speech. Usagi Yojimbo. It's an anthropomorphic rabbit who is a ninja. And Usagi has his own monthly ongoing series. However, this is part of a mini-series. It's issue 3 in The Hidden. And again, you read the typo and it's like, Usagi Yojimbo is investigating the deaths of 2 samurai. Deaths? I don't want deaths. You're talking rabbit ninjas. So 4-year-olds? No, not good. 7-year-olds? Yeah, you'll probably be good with it. We had our set when our oldest was 7 years old. He was reading some of the Usagi Yojimbo issues that we have around the house, and he liked to read them, but he hasn't really grasped on to the culture of Japan. Shame on him. We're working on that. Or the artistic elements of something that's not in color. And Usagi Yojimbo is in black and white. So it's where you got to demo it up just a little bit because you're talking, well, it's not going to be color and flashy, so that's going to eliminate some people who will like it. However, if you're down with black and white comics and can see the content over the flashy colors, then Usagi Yojimbo is something you need to check out. And this is a mini-series, so you're jumping in kind of mid-story. But I think you'll catch on quickly. I trust you. I do. Sonic the Hedgehog has been around since the early 80s, I think. What is unique about this new incarnation of its comic book on IDW Publishing is that this is the 3rd printing of Sonic the Hedgehog #1. So that means like 2 months ago, because I think Sonic the Hedgehog 3 is out very soon. 2 months ago, Sonic the Hedgehog 1 came out, and it's been so popular that the stock that the comic book stores have received have all been sold out. Happened once, happened twice, boom. This is the 3rd time, so it gives you an idea that this is a good comic book that people are buying because they dig the story, they like the action, and people know the character. So something's going on here to where people are buying it. So jump on the train. Side note and slight spoiler alert, the 2nd issue of Sonic the Hedgehog has also gone to a 2nd printing. So, jump on in. It's by Tracy Yardley. Tracy Yardley is kind of an all-age comic book legend. Side note, if you're going to be in Atlanta on May 24th, 25th, 26th, or 27th, check out MomoCon. Better yet, just do a quick search for MomoCon. It's in Atlanta. It's an anime conference with a very large subsect that is great for children. It's not your typical con where it is more adultish, horrible English, horrible grammar, but you people who have been to a con or know what I'm talking about, you follow me, because maybe you wouldn't take your child, your 6-year-old or your 7-year-old, to a con because the costumes are, wow, they're really beautiful, but they could be too graphic and could scare the pants off them. You don't want that. We've taken our child to Dragon Con, and it was like that. It was a little scary, a little too much. MomoCon is fun, and there's much, much, much to be had. However, it's also very family-friendly, very kid-friendly, without being a kid conference. Does that make sense? I hope it does. And check out MomoCon. The reason I say that is because Tracy Yardley, the artist and story guy for Sonic the Hedgehog, he is going to be at MomoCon, as well as a handful of other great comic book artists, voiceover people, and anime artists. Check that out. And also check out Sonic the Hedgehog, because this train is leaving the tracks again.
Thanks for listening to Daddy Mojo. Be sure to tune in next time. For more information on any of the things we talked about today, just check out the website, daddymojo.net, or hit us up at Daddy Mojo on social media.